So I want to let everyone know here that's, I want to introduce you. Who I'm speaking with is wonderful Shelly-Ann Weeks. She's an author, sex educator, and activist, and she's the founder of Her Flow Foundation. She's had a focus on the female sexuality and is the author of 2 books. I changed my diet and changed my life, and also It's My Body, period. And she
Mm-hmm.
teaches girls about health reproduction, which is something that's fantastic. And her flagship is project is ending period poverty in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure we got all of that, know exactly who we are speaking with today, and all your great initiatives. And so one of the things that I in your session this morning
Mm-hmm.
that I saw a lot of were a lot was a lot of hashtags end period shaming, end
Yeah.
period shaming. But tell me,
Mm-hmm.
what does period shaming mean to you? What does that consist of?
All right. Well, the quick example that I like to draw on is calling in sick to work. So you get up in the morning and you're not feeling so well and you don't feel like you're going to be able to make it to work, and you make that dreaded phone call. Now, if you have diarrhea, if you have migraine, if you have an asthma problem, if it's your diabetes, you name it, whatever the ailment is, usually the person on the other end of the line offers some sort of sympathy, some sort of, I hope you feel better. Oh, I'm so sorry. All that kind of response until you say your issue is related to periods. And
Mhm.
when you say that your issue is related to period, now you meet annoyance, indifference. Now it's like, why are you wasting my time? Take a pill and come to work. And this is not something that I just hear about from other women. I've actually experienced that because before I changed my relationship with food, which is what my first book is about, but before I changed my relationship with food, there were times when I simply could not move because I was in so much pain. And when I have to make that dreaded phone call and now I have to explain to the person on the other end of the line that, okay, so my period is acting up and my back is killing me and I'm really in a whole heap of pain. I'm actually lying down on the ground right now. They don't want to hear it. Take a pill and come to work. And so the idea of period being this inconvenience, this thing that gets in the way of everyday life, that's the way it is seen, especially by a lot of men in our society. And if you talk to men and ask them what they think about period, a lot of them will tell you things like, well, they know when a woman is on a period, they don't get any sex. So that's where the inconvenience come in again, because they would like to have all the sex, but because she's on her period, they can't get any. And on top of that, she's miserable. And on top of that, and on top of that, and on top of that. So they have all of these complaints that are associated with periods. And really, I like to have conversation with men about period because usually what I ask them when they say things like that to me is, how do you feel when you have a headache? And usually when they have a headache, they can't function. They nothing, like the entire day stops for a headache.
Ain't
And,
that the truth?
and no disrespect to a headache, but
Yeah.
a headache is nothing in comparison to menstrual cramps.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've gone through days where I'm having conversations with people and mid-sentence I go, and I didn't even realize I did it. Somebody pointed it out to me one day. They said, why are you always making that grunting sound?
Mm-hmm.
And that was me trying to cope with the pain, trying to work through the pain. And I really just think that we have to get past that. Some women have difficult periods. That's life. We
Mm-hmm.
are very, very patient and open and empathetic when it comes to diabetes, as we should be. When it comes to asthma, when it comes to migraines, when it comes to all of the other issues that somebody will have. But when it comes to period, we don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, did your period, because you mentioned your book and about changing your diet, but when you changed your diet, did it affect your period, you feel, or do you?
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I used to have periods for 11 days, very heavy periods. Back then I was wearing a super overnight pad all the time. And whether it's day or night, that's what I'll wear. And sometimes I'll wear it while wearing a tampon. And even so, that will just last me for like an hour. And I have to change again. And I'm talking about full from front to back. Full.
Yeah.
At the time I had really terrible anemia. And I can think of at least 4 or 5 times that I've blocked out. That I've lost consciousness because my count was so low. And so when I changed my relationship with food, now my periods are completely pain-free. I have them for 2 days. I don't bleed as much as I used to. Like, no, I don't even wear menstrual products. If I'm at home, I don't wear menstrual products at all. I just hold it until I use the bathroom, then I let it out. And then my friends are very annoyed with me about that, by the way. But
so you don't wear menstrual products at all, you say? I
don't wear menstrual products at all.
Oh, wow.
I just like, because I work from home. So like when I'm writing or something, I just get up and use the bathroom. And if I have to go on the road, I put on a panty liner. And even so, I don't soil the panty liner at all. I don't have to wear menstrual products anymore.
And that's all from changing your diet?
That's completely from changing my relationship with food. Yep.
Oh, we have to have a whole session on that. That's
oh, whenever you're ready. That's what my book is about. That as a matter of fact, that was the catalyst to me starting this entire work, because I wanted to shout it from the rooftops. I'm like, women need to know about this. We need to know that what we eat is affecting our bodies, especially when it comes to our reproductive health. What we eat matters. It just does.
And going back to your point about the pain with menstruation, Cynthia is saying, yes, we need to address periods and pain as health issues that come with menstruation, because so often, especially when we're working this initiative, period poverty, so many think, oh, it's just about pads and tampons. You know, there's so much that it evolves that is part of our periods, and pain management being one of them. You know? And so I think, you know, after we have another session coming up with a young lady that suffers from endometriosis, and a severe, you know, it's a whole nother spectrum of pain. But I think that that's one of the things that about periods that sometimes when people say a lot, oh, this is women are the weaker sex, I think it's related to the fact that we bleed. And it's not, you know.
Oh, I don't even know what. Honestly, I disagree with that. The fact that we are able to bleed and still be alive, that's not a sign of weakness at all. So I don't even know who came up with this weakness. I think what it is, I think they maybe had an arm wrestling competition, and because the dude had bigger muscles, he won, and they go, oh, he's stronger. But let me tell you something. I don't know any man who can function through menstrual cramps. If you know him, I would like to meet him, because if they have a little headache, they're done for the day. They're out. They have no use. They can't do anything further. They're having a headache.
And the thing about bleeding, you know, a lot of men, I think, and I've had 5 men in my family who've been in the armed forces and fought war. But I think a lot of times, you know, when a man bleeds, it's connected to violence, and it's often seen as heroic. And, you know, so you have these two associations where it's violence and you're being a hero. So the fact that women do it on a monthly basis, just because it's our bodies, I don't think they see it any other kind of way.
And not just that, I hear people say things like, whenever they're talking about women in leadership, they say things like, oh, well, she might be on her period one day and just make some irrational decisions. I'm like, so what is the excuse for all the men who have been leading all this time? They make irrational decisions all this time, and they don't have a period. So what's the problem? Obviously, period is not the issue. So how did you that a woman would make irrational decisions because of her period if she's placed in a role of leadership? They're like, but she can't handle the nuclear code. She's gonna start a war. But haven't all the wars been started by men? Stop.
we may pause because we may be like, we don't feel like it today, you know. We're on our period.
The reasoning just don't make any sense. That's all I'm saying. The whole reasoning, the premise is flawed, because you're saying that women don't qualify for leadership because she displays all of these bad actions based on her menses. How do you justify the actions placed by the bad action placed by men who are not having a menses. So obviously the menses is not the issue.
You're right. Yeah. It's disparaging. I think it's just a way to say, oh, let's not even consider what she's thinking. You know, she's PMSing.
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
dismissive.
It's dismissive. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's I've experienced it quite a bit in my lifetime. You know that oh well, you know you have your period. That's probably why you're reacting this way. You know,
and they have all sorts of diagnoses.
Yes. You know, one thing I really find so interesting about our connection, about what we're doing, is that, you know, you're working in Jamaica, a small nation in the Caribbean, right? And West Indies. And here I am in America, which is considered by a lot to be this great superpower. And yet we both are having the we are both having the same
pretty
issue.
much the same problem.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was just so very interesting to when I started just reading about you know, yes, everything that we're saying, that, you know, the fact that we are in the same boat, fighting the same war, and you are a small, you know, why do you think that is? Why do you think that this is such a prevalent problem across the world or globally? You know?
Because men don't have periods. If men had periods, pads would be everywhere. We wouldn't have to buy them. They'll be available. Because and it's not. I don't want to give the impression that I have a problem with men or that I think men are evil or anything like that. But it's just that one of the problems that leadership have, that I've observed, is lack of empathy. They are just unable to see an issue that doesn't directly affect them. And if you have a room full of men deciding how a budget is spent, and it's all men and they're thinking about things that they think are important, periods doesn't even make the list. There's nobody in that room to say, hello, there are a group of women in our society, a big enough group that goes through this every month. I've spoken to women in leadership, and I'm trying to convince them that period poverty is a thing, and they can't see it either, because to them, they can't even understand being in that position, because if they need menstrual products, they go out and buy it. So the idea that there's a group of people who just don't have the resources to have a dignified menstrual cycle is foreign to them. And so part of the issue is that a lot of people lead from a distance. They're sitting in a boardroom over here making decisions about a community miles away from them. They've probably never been in that community. They don't know what goes on the ground in that community. But they see some graphs with some numbers on them, and they're deciding that, okay, that community needs this and that community needs that. And you see it all the time. And it's not just where period poverty is concerned, even education. They're talking about education, and they're even like right now in the COVID crisis. One of the biggest problems that exists is distance learning is really for persons who have access to this infrastructure that facilitate distance learning. Right. Some people don't have any Wi-Fi at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for the persons who don't have any Wi-Fi at home, distance learning, how they gonna get onto Zoom?
Right.
So a lot of times we make these blanket decisions, not considering that what we're deciding may not apply in all situations, in all communities. And so when we go into this community, we may have to make a different sort of plan, because the infrastructure is not there to execute what we need to get done on a wide enough scale. And that is part of the problem that we have, especially when it comes to poverty, because everybody thinks that, okay, poor people just need some money, so just give them some money and make them go on. When if you were able to look at the thing in a more detailed way, you wouldn't just give them the money, you give them an option that allows them to make their own money. Right. And so if they can make their own money, then they can educate their children, then they can actually get out of poverty. But if you think that it's just about, all right, just going to give them some money and let them drink something today, or let them eat something today, and they'll be fine. That's not how it works.
Right.
So I think that it really does come down to leadership and the fact that a lot of our leaders are just out of touch. Oh Lord, sorry.
It's okay. I flashed a construction picture before I had.
Mm-hmm.
So, but so one of the things that you just said really resonated with me. And Cynthia says true pads would be everywhere like condoms are, right? So that's going back to the fact that men are, in charge. But one thing
They're making the money decisions.
they make all the decisions, they pass all the laws. But one thing I've experienced since I started this movement, that there are a lot of women that are even uncomfortable speaking about their periods, right? So a lot of it's like a silence issue. So even if they don't have the pads, it's not something that they really discuss. It's not something that would really know. So one of the things that I really like about you is that you sort of motivate women to be more vocal about their periods. Because if the majority of the lawmakers or the majority of the people making the laws are men, how can they be aware of a problem that we as women are shy about speaking about, to begin
Well,
with?
that is it. We have to get over that. We have to stop being shy. We have to take period out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm at. We have to take period out of the closet. We can't continue to treat period as this dirty little secret that all of us are so good at keeping. We have to start being uncomfortable. We have to talk about it. My experience where men are concerned, whenever I invite them to the table and I speak to them and I show them certain things and I explain certain things to them, they are open and they go, oh, I didn't even think about it like that, and wow, I didn't even know that. Oh my gosh, how do you survive? So they really don't know. And part of the reason why they don't know is our fault. Because we have become so good at hiding it.
Yes.
We keep all of these things away from them. So you have a woman who's living in a house with a man who she's married to, who does not know that she has endometriosis.
Mm-hmm.
Who does not know that she is in so much pain that she can't even sleep at night.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's so busy hiding it from him.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times, one of the gentlemen on the live that we did with the fathers earlier, he points out the fact that his mother had endometriosis, and he found out the day she completely blocked out on him. She collapsed and she was hemorrhaging. And it's in that moment he realized that his mother had a problem, because now he had to help her up and clean her up and get her to the doctor. And when she get to the doctor started to break down certain things. But all his life, he has never had any reason to think or know. He didn't know what endometriosis is. He didn't know that his mother was going through all of this pain. Mm-hmm. So as women, we have to stop hiding our pain. Our pain is valid. Our pain, because we are taught that the pain shouldn't stop us from functioning. And that's fine, but it also shouldn't be kept away from everybody because it's going to make them uncomfortable. Your pain is valid. Your pain is important. It means something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is we have to start that. That nobody can do that for us. We have to stop hiding our periods. We have to.
I remember I did you hit it right in the head. We have to bring the period out of the closet.
We have to take the period out of the closet. We have to.
And we did a lecture for young high school girls. And we talked about period poverty, and there were boys in the room. And, we had a Q&A afterwards. And we asked, have any of you experienced needing a pad while in school and not had access to it, or had an accident?
Right.
One girl raised her hand and she says, yes, a lot of times, I don't have pads and I have to make, makeshift pads. And she was sitting next to this young man. And he looked at her, and he was like kind of shocked, and it turns out, and then he raised his hand and he says, well, we really have to do something about this, because I don't want my best friend, which was the girl, going through this. He's like, I think it's so wrong that he doesn't have access. But you could see that he was truly shocked. He was moved by that this girl that was his best friend was going in silence, you know, and so she
Yeah,
never vocalized it because it is a shameful, and that's
it is, especially when you cannot provide it. That is the thing, you know. That's where the pride come in. Like women, we are so prideful. It's as if we can't ask for help. You know how many women come to me to ask me for menstrual products and cannot say the word?
oh my
They,
God.
they can't they can't actually articulate, and I have to kind of figure out that's what they want, and just facilitate them getting it,
Hmm.
because I really don't want to put them through the stress of trying to force themselves to say it. But that's how deep it is. They can't even ask for help,
Hmm. Yeah.
because saying it out loud somehow means it's a character flaw. Needing a pack of pads as an adult woman means you did something wrong with your life, means you are failing,
Hmm.
means you should go and hide your face in somewhere dark and never come out, which is ridiculous.
Hmm.
We all need help for something. I don't know everything. I not for the time, this whole thing I did today, you know what people I call her, ask, and say, okay, so this is what I want to do. We all need help for something. So
Hmm.
we have to get out of our own way and be in a position to, when we need help, to ask for it, which is why it is so important that we normalize conversations about period, because just being able to have the words
Hmm. Yes.
is a real challenge for a lot of us.
And that's another second point I wanted to talk to you, which I thought was really fascinating, was that you also talk about um, um, initially female sexuality, right?
Yeah,
And women's bodies, and then you segue that into young girls about them feeling comfortable in their bodies, right?
yeah,
Because I think my belief is that you have to start from a very young age, letting young girls know
yeah.
that this is something that happens to your body, and there's, you know, teaching them about their body, right? Because
Mhm.
that's when their period comes, or anything. I just feel like I look back at my own childhood, and I think how, uh, I'm Puerto Rican, so my grandmother was from the mountains of Puerto Rico, and I shared the story yesterday. But she was a very, mountainous. Mountain people are a little bit rough around the edges, you know. And when I got my
Right,
period,
right, right.
she didn't even. It was like nothing to her. Didn't explain anything to me, and so it was just like, okay, you got your period. I need help fixing, working in the backyard. And I think something about young girls being very comfortable in their bodies at a young age and knowing
Yeah,
that this is what happens, I think that builds a type of confidence that I think
yeah,
that I even lacked growing up, because I was very uncomfortable about my body because I didn't understand my body.
yeah.
Uh, so, how do you connect that? Like, how is it that, what do you think is that an important line that connects the girls being know about their bodies and knowing about who they are, and their periods? Like, why to you, how do you connect it to, and why do you think that's so important for young girls? Because that's such a hallmark of what I see you're about.
Well, I grew up with my great grandmother. I grew up in a very rural parish here in Jamaica, farming community. And my great grandmother was a powerhouse of a woman. I didn't realize how much of a radical she really was until I became an adult. And the last time I spoke to her, I was 9 years old.
Mm.
So by the time I was about 8, I knew who I was, and I was very secure in that. And that is 100% because of my great grandmother. I remember I came home from school one day crying because the kids at school were teasing me that my forehead big, still
Oh.
big.
Hmm.
And I was really young. I think I was maybe about 4 or 5. I was like kindergarten age. And I was crying. I was saying, Grandma, they called them Mama. I said, Mama, they said my forehead big, and I was bawling. I was so devastated. And she lifted me up off the ground by my shoulders, and she put me eye level with her, and she shook me. I'll never forget it. And she said, never allow what other people say about you to affect the way you feel about yourself.
Hmm.
And I tell that story a lot because what I want adults to understand, that what you say to children matter.
Hmm.
And I was about 4 or 5 at the time that my granny said that to me, and I never forgot it. And I'm 39 now.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we can do to build confidence in girls, especially, is do not silence their voice. I think one of the most disgusting things we can do is tell a little girl to shut up. And we know the little chatterbox girl, they always have much to say. They have a lot of stories to tell. And sometimes it's out of frustration. The parents say, little girl, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
You disarm her. You tell her her voice does not matter. You invalidate her. And she internalizes all of that. And then she grows up to be a woman who does not have a voice.
Mm.
So we really have to be careful how we relate to children. And a lot of the times we don't do it maliciously, but it makes a difference. They don't know that you're not doing it maliciously. What they read is she's trying to talk and you tell her to shut up.
Yeah.
You silence her voice. I think that is one of the most crippling things that we can do as an adult, is to silence the voice of a child. When you silence their voice, you take away their ability to defend themselves, to explain themselves, to articulate how they feel. They can't function in a society where they cannot use their voice. And I think that's one of the reasons why, even as women, a lot of us have so much problem saying certain things and owning certain things, because our voice was silenced when we were children.
Yes.
As a girl, somebody shut us up and we stayed shut up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one thing that they could never do with me was silence my voice, because my granny told me that. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I've been punished to stop the talking. I've been chastised. I've been teased. They call me chatterbox most of my life. All of my teachers say the same thing, that I'm very bright, but Lord, I can chat. Mm-hmm. And I get paid to talk now. So,
so you were right all along and talking. They just weren't aware. You knew your calling. You knew what you were.
I'm telling you, I knew who I was.
Yeah.
I knew who I was.
No, that's so special with the story about your grandmother, because I can see that you still carry that with you. Like that's the moment, you know, that you something, she instilled something in you in that moment. How special is that to
never forgot it. And you see how young I was? Mm-hmm. You see how long ago that was?
Yeah.
And it's still here.
Yeah. And it's very true when you say about how we speak to children and what we convey to girls, you know. And that's why you have a lot of like self-care and self-love, and there's a resounding theme, but typically you see that for adults, you know. But I think that really should, of course, adults need it, because they're probably from these childhoods where how you just described, and so they're coming to that point where they need to find that voice, develop that self-care, that self-love that was kind of taken from them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's why that's so popular in so many around the world, you know, that self-love, self-care movement. But I think that even now, for young girls to develop that, right, to have that movement within themselves, you know, and to join, you know, like there's no competition, you know.
Oh, that's another thing. Oh, I think we do such a disservice to girls when we encourage them to compete against each other. Mm-hmm. And we encourage them to compete. I think Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, in her speech, We Should All Be Feminists, she said that girls are encouraged to compete for the attention of men. And that is so true, because you would find the most toxic of relationships. A woman is in a very toxic relationship. This man is horrible. She's about to leave him. And then she see him paying attention to another woman. And all of a sudden, who is that? And so her whole focus stopped being trying to get away from this man and start being, who is that woman trying to take my man?
Right.
And I think it's what, you know, I wish I knew the formula. If I could figure out the formula to one day get women to see in each other a collaborator and not a competitor, I think we'll just take over the entire world. Yeah. Because one of the things that men are much better at than we are, men can stay friends after having sex with the same woman.
Yeah.
Women can't do it. Men can, they'll compare. They're like, oh, when she was with me, oh, really? She did that with me too. And their friendship will survive it. Two women, the same man, they stop talking to them one another and they still talk to the man.
That is so true. No, that's so, yeah, that ability to she's like your mortal enemy over a lot of times. And
you forget that the dude, him, he is the one who betrayed you, not her.
And I think this type of dialogue, it goes with the mental health of girls.
Yes.
You know.
Correct.
So in my mind, when I say, you know, because we have this joint desire to have girls and access period products in schools, you know.
Yes.
But a great part of what I believe is that, you know, is exactly what you were just commenting on, that, you know, see a collaborator, not a competitor.
A competitor.
And Cynthia,
yeah.
and I, we've been thinking of having these, developing these youth ambassadors in schools, where if a girl can't necessarily go to her guidance counselor because, you know, maybe she doesn't want to talk to her guidance counselor, or go to the nurse because she doesn't want to have a speech, then there should be, you know, another person in school, another girl, you know, that she can go to and, you know, and say, hey, can I have a pad, you know, and sort of have like build this, you know, collaborative, you know, I guess underlying theme around the period poverty, right? Or access to pads in schools.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, you know, the more I research this, the more I read about this, I realize, gosh, it's not just about pads, you know. It's really not just about the access.
It's a dignity issue. That's where I'm at. It's that it comes down to dignity. The young lady who I met, that she was the reason why I started her flow. I met her 5 years ago, and she told me she was able to wear one pad for 5 days. And her teachers complained that she had behavior issues, she had discipline issues, she wouldn't stay in class, and all of these kind of things. And they never made the connection. They never made the connection that she was acting out because of the fact that she was having self-esteem issues because she couldn't have access to menstrual products. She graduated high school last year, like third in her class, passed all her subjects, and the only thing we did was provide menstrual products.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we did. She did everything else. She went to class, she paid attention, she stopped misbehaving, she's a whole different person. And the one thing we changed was made sure that she had full access to menstrual products.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah. We did a survey, and 95% of girls says that if you don't have pads, it affects your ability to concentrate and focus in school.
It affects everything.
Yeah. They just no matter what they try, they can't focus, and that puts them behind all their other peers.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And so and 76% had needed a pad while in school. 86% had an accident, you know, while they're in school, you know. And sometimes the accident could be, you know, malplacement, but a lot of times it could be that they need to change that pad and they don't have access.
I've met girls who wear pads for days, like, because they say what they do is they'll put on the pad and they put tissue on top of the pad, so they'll change the pad each time. When I go into school, like, sometimes they'll walk past me and I smell them. I'm like, come here.
Yeah.
And I don't ask her any questions. I just give her some pads and wipes and stuff, and she should go straight to the bathroom.
Wow.
So it's not even that she doesn't know. It's just that she's doing her best with what she has.
Right.
And they shouldn't have to make that decision. They shouldn't have to be in a situation where that's literally what it comes down to. One pad, and you know you have a 5-day cycle, and you're trying to figure out how to wear this one pad for 5 days. Come on, man.
What's the path to that? How do we get the schools, or how do we get the government to realize that they need to have
Well,
girls?
I need you to help me with the government part because I'm batting zero where government is concerned, and it's not because I'm not trying.
Mm-hmm.
However, what we have been able to do is we established very good relationships with the guidance counselors and the nurses in the schools that we serve. We're expanding our reach. Well, 2020, I had massive plans to expand the reach to double the amount of schools that we have. Right now, we serve just over 100 schools, but I want to make that at least 200 to 300 by the end of 2020. I don't know if we're going to hit the 300 mark just based on this COVID thing, but what we do is we talk directly to the guidance counselors and we supply them with products and we ask them to keep a log so that we can have an idea of what the need actually does look like. Because we don't have the research hasn't been done to show empirically overall in the nation what period poverty looks like. But what I do is when I go into a school, I have a questionnaire that I ask the teachers to fill out, and that gives me an idea of what goes on in that school. So we supply those schools, and what we're trying to forge a relationship with the Ministry of Health to allow us to put menstrual products in the clinics, because we have over 3,000 clinics right across Jamaica right now that you can walk in and get as many condoms as you want. Not one of them have any menstrual products. So what I want to do is supply those clinics and menstrual products so that whenever we get the calls for people who want products, I can just direct them to the clinic nearest them. So that is the next major project that we're doing. But everything that we've been able to do is 100% based on the kind benevolence of individuals, of companies. Right here, I want to say big up to Curse, big up to Always, big up to Stay Free. When I go to them and I beg, they give me products. And so that is how we're able to do a lot of the things that we're able to do, because I beg and people say yes. And that is how we've been able to give out over 100,000 period kits to school. We did over 5,000 packs of pads since COVID started. And I have a lot more stuff to go, because next week we're going on a whole drive to make sure that we get to as many schools as we can, because even though schools are out, the teachers and the guidance counselors still prepare care packages for the students who are most vulnerable. And so we try to give products to them so that they can get that, because people forget about products. They know people want food, they know they want water, they know they probably want something to brush them teeth. Nobody remembers pads, nobody remembers menstruation. So that is why I make sure that menstrual products are available, because period ain't gonna stop for COVID.
Yeah.
I don't meet a stronger than period yet. Not even bleach.
Yes. And that leads me to my next question: is how have you been able to continue your mission during COVID? How has COVID affected you, or have you found that it has strengthened your message? Because I mean, here we are speaking and expanding this message, and you certainly
Right.
you collaborate with me.
Well, I see COVID as an opportunity, really, but that's just my outlook in life. There are a lot of things that we had planned. We're supposed to be in schools now. I had 3 tours that had to be canceled because schools are out because of COVID. But we stay in touch with the guidance counselors, and whenever they have anything going on, we try to support them as much as possible, because they are on the ground. They are speaking to the girls. I've actually had a guidance counselor reach out to me just to ask me for 3 packs of pads for one girl who called her because she just didn't have any products at all, and she was just begging her. And by the time I got to her, that number got to 12 girls. So I gave her enough products to last the girls and all of that. But we get the calls and we try to make sure that we step up for the calls. But just generally speaking, when they locked down the country, we were able to get in touch with the Ministry of Health, and they were able to tell us about certain communities that were more vulnerable than others, and we just try to make sure that we give them enough products so that the communities could get, because they were providing food and those kind of items for the people in the community, but there were no menstrual products available. So we wanted to make sure that menstrual products were a part of the kits that go out, because like we know, period's still flowing. Yeah. So we wanted to ensure that the products get to that. So we just been doing things differently, but the work continues, and it's going to have to continue because we're still flowing. So,
so you could be, there's so many things, so many causes in the world that
Yeah.
one person can get behind.
Yeah.
What is it about girls? What is it about periods? Why are you, because you're so, I mean, I could literally, like, I can feel your passion. It's that, you know, like this, you are, yeah, you are passion personified, you know, and you
Oh
speak
my
from
gosh,
the
well,
heart.
thank you for that. I'm passion personified. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be my new logo.
Yes, you are though. I could sense that, like, desire for change, that desire,
Yeah.
that love for girls, to raise awareness for periods, you know. And I'm just like, I'm in awe. And, you know, I'm chasing you, yeah, because even the amount of products that you've given out, and especially when you say, you know, that it's been difficult path with the government, that's
Yeah.
you know, that can demoralize a lot of people, but it seems like that
Yeah.
ignited a fire in you, you know, and you said, okay, well, I'll just go another way.
Oh no,
So
because it's not about me. Well, what made me do it? I told you, this little girl. I met this little girl. I wrote this book when I changed my relationship with food. I wrote this book about how it affected my reproductive health. I went through hell with my period and all of those kind of things. And I was promoting my book that I wrote. And I went into schools because I wanted girls to be aware that they can actively have better periods if they make different choices. And just in talking to the girls one on one, I realized that there is a need. At the time, I didn't know that there was a thing called period poverty. It's just talking to these girls, I realized that them individually, they have this need. And like I keep on telling people, my first call was Lasco. I called the brand manager at the time at Lasco, and I said, I'm asking for some menstrual products. I have about 30 girls that need some products, and they said, come for them. And I went and picked them up and I donated them to the school. And the guidance counselor was besides herself because she's like, oh my gosh, do you know that we have to actually provide products for these girls? Do you know that every month, like this guidance counselor told me a story where she buys one pack with 12 pads in it. And by the time she got to 10 o'clock in the morning, all 12 pads were gone and she gave one pad to each girl. And I'm like, so what am when that one pad use?
yeah.
What do they do for the other part? And she's like, I don't know. I don't have any more to give them. And that is how I realized that there was a need. And in having more conversations with more schools, I realized it was a need. Jamaica has a school feeding program, a national school feeding program. And that program is designed to provide a hot lunch for students who don't have any lunch money. And so I thought, well, then if them don't have any lunch,
Yeah.
what do they do when they have their periods?
Yeah. Right.
And it just kind of ballooned from there. And every time I have dialogue with another guidance counselor or with a nurse, they're able to back up everything because the girls go to them. And a lot of times they go into their own pockets and they buy 1 or 2 packs, and clearly that's not enough. And I just like I'm here with you on social media, I sat on my social media and like, okay, people, look here, I'm begging. I need to know when to buy the product, buy an extra one and send it to me, or tell me I'll come pick it up. I'm begging. Yeah. And it blew up to people coming from the States. They're coming to Jamaica on vacation and they link me in my DMs. And I have to go to the airport, go collect 2 suitcases full of pad.
Oh, how fantastic. Oh, yeah.
Right. So the support of the public is exactly how we've been able to do this work.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And one of the things that you know, I want to be able to leave or if I could just or influence young girls is just to really, like, I envision a world where a girl can go into her backpack and pull out a pad or a tampon and say, I have to go to the bathroom. I have to change my back without that stigma. You know, it's just as simple as that, and having that access. And you know, I feel like the more we talk about it, the more people you know, like we have these type of conversations, the more it's not as taboo, even though it shouldn't be taboo, but that's a lot of time a word that people use. Oh, it's taboo, it's taboo. And I just wanted you to speak about it's my body, period. Because I like the title of that book, and just
oh, where is it? Oh, it's around here somewhere. I need to Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, it's my body period. Oh, here it is. Okay. So, this book,
Oh,
that's the
nice.
book,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
It's fully illustrated. Um,
Oh,
it
wow.
has all the information you need. I have a whole chapter about products, talks about period and pain, talks about healthy periods.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole thing about nutrition and diet, and it even tells you how to throw a period party.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this book out of a need that I saw to educate girls about their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
It is a personal pet peeve of mine that when we talk to girls about their bodies, they know about eyes and toes and fingers and nose and ears and arms. But when it comes to their nether regions, it's private parts.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
Private.
it's not private
Right.
parts. You have you have labia,
Mm-hmm.
you have clitoris, you've
Mm-hmm.
got a urethra, you have vagina. So all of these words become foreign to them. And so I'm like, okay, so we can't continue to not be able to say the words. That's why language is so important, you know, and communication is so important because we don't teach girls about their bodies. And so they don't even know how to say my vagina, my
Mm-hmm.
clitoris,
Mm-hmm.
my urethra. Half of them didn't even know that they don't urinate through the vagina. They think that they urinate, menstruate, everything through the one hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, because of this misunderstanding and miseducation, I felt that I wanted to create a book
Mm-hmm.
that has a story about a girl who's going through something that the reader who's reading it can relate. And also, it's done in the voice of an 11-year-old girl as she experienced period for the first time. And so what she learns, you learn. So as she figure out about pads, as she does the research, as she talks to her sister, as she interacts with her friends, as she goes to school, and her first period starts in her classroom, and everybody saw it because she bled right through her chair, and it was a horrifying experience for her. And I wrote it like that because I hear this story from little girls all the time, and I want them to understand that you can have this horrible experience and still move on and still become a confident girl and still
Oh,
feel good about yourself and survive it and you'll be fine. Right? And
yeah.
I kind of selfishly wrote it with 11-year-old me in mind
Mm-hmm.
because I would have really appreciated a book like this when I had my first period, to be
Yes.
honest with you.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Oh, I think that's so fantastic. So you know that you pretty much, you know, that just pretty much set up a series for us to talk about. You know, that would be wonderful, and I think that would be wonderful for girls here in Jersey City
Yeah.
to have you read. I mean, we'll have to talk more offline.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because I think that they would really, I welcome this experience, and even how you have an 11-year-old girl. I
Yeah.
think it's worthwhile sharing. And so I'm so excited that we got to bring that up, you know, because I saw it and I was like, I didn't get a chance to research what it's about, but I just loved the title of the book.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
and the title is a little cheeky too because I'm like, it's my body.
it,
Period.
Oh, you've been a dream. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have to unfortunately wrap up because I found out yesterday that Instagram Live is only 1 hour.
Oh yeah, and they'll kick
Little
you off.
clock came
Don't
up, you
don't
know.
worry.
I was like, what's happening? I saw the clock coming down. I was like, is it,
Yes,
you know, the time?
you just see that countdown. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, so now it's like, okay, so now I'm aware, but it's been so fantastic to have you. Thank you so much for joining me, for just sharing your great knowledge. I really want to be able to continue this conversation.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. This is just number one.
yeah,
You be
yeah,
talking.
yes, because it was just so fantastic. And I really want to share this with the girls in Jersey City, your book, you know,
Okay.
so we
All right.
have to get that going.
With
Yeah.
that's consider it done.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Shelly-Ann. All right.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you. God bless to everybody in Jamaica and to you and to your wonderful
You
efforts.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too. I'll see you soon.
All right. No problem. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you.